My secret signal to hurry up is going to be staring at you like a maniac, like one of the turtles staring at a tired
I've got a secret signal, but everybody knows that one.
Welcome back to BoomerRexTonight.
Just can't let her do an intro, can we?
Once again, I have Mr. BoomerRex himself, who's sipping coffee. Asshole.
I let her do her intro. I just get in the way of the front end because I'm nice.
And I am RisenLadyHeathen, also known as Risen. Once again, I have our next killer legends lined up for the end of our show.
All right.
But first, there was some things we want to discuss. I'm going to, once again, open us up with what Asshole closed us up with last night. The Field of Skulls. So now you have to tell this story. Go for it.
So, I grew up, at least part of the bit, in Huntsville, Alabama. And, I learned to skate in the Von Braun Civic Center, because that's where we hit all the rocket Nazis. And there was a terrible fire at some point for Ringling Brothers. They lost, 40 draft horses.
Oh, God.
And so there was a place near where, we grew up that you could just walk around, and there was just skulls everywhere.
Field of Skulls.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's a little creepy.
Too bad you don't have a video.
It was back before smartphones.
All right, let's get into some news and politics, and then I have a Walmart story for y'all. You're going to love this one. Okay.
All right. Go.
Yeah, this is all you.
Well,
man.
then we can talk about
What do you want to
dads on duty.
Oh, no, we're back to high school again. We
I
seem
know.
to be on the subject a lot
What is
recently.
this? What?
I kind of love this.
I took a nap today. What dumb things did they do while I was...
In Shreveport, Louisiana, they had a high school where, over the course of 2 days, they had students fighting each other, and they had 22 arrests.
Damn. That
And
seems
apparently,
Prison pipeline, I guess.
this sort of, yeah. Well, apparently, a group of the fathers connected to that school said, "No, this is enough." So they formed what has now been christened Dads on Duty.
odd.
They walk the halls before school. They walk the halls during lunch. They walk the halls after school. No violence since they started it, right? And, they're just walking through, being cool, talking to the kids.
Plus, they're an adult. If cops show up, the cops are going to go, "Hey, other adult, what did these horrible children do?"
Yeah. Is it, why am I here? What is my motivation? Anyway. No, and so it's been working for a while. And the mayor of Shreveport has said, let's get it going in some other schools.
I don't mess it up, dads, but...
Yeah.
Yeah. DOD, don't be not cool.
This is one dick pic away from all y'all going to jail, but...
Don't send dick
Be
pics.
cool.
We just had this discussion. We shouldn't have to re-go over this.
I think you have a thing about dick pics.
I wasn't the one asking for them.
Here, let me give you his email
I
address.
have talked myself out of making BoomerRex's dick pic emporium .gmail. Whatever. But now I'm gonna.
Again, I didn't understand why would you do it, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I still think.
Because it's the same reason little boys pull hair.
Yeah.
They think that they're being cool or whatever.
They
I think braised
no, there's the
scallops and a
perfect
good white
answer.
wine would
Yes,
be-
for sure. Yes,
way
that's
better.
why you touch more boobs than them.
Well,
No.
I feel like that's a lot of the problem is that these guys have either touched too many boobs or too few boobs, and they don't know what's going on.
I'm guessing if they're
there's no
sending
in between.
dick pics, it's too few.
All of the
Right.
answers entirely from Thrones that they have enjoyed their penis their whole life. They don't understand why no one else does.
Right.
They just assume other people will.
Okay.
You know, they're weird, dude.
I understand.
Vaginas are weird. I'm not
But I
sending
can
you
also
vag
cook and
pics.
sew
Like,
and,
don't send me dick pics. We're good.
Do all the lists of things you're supposed to be able to do. So
Dads on duty.
don't
A good idea. That could go
screw this up.
nationwide. What?
Do
Well,
not screw this up.
Well, let's turn it into like parents on duty, right? Because
Yeah,
what you
I
really
agree.
need is a Karen in the hallway being like, "Hey, you two,
Don't
come close."
bring the Karens in.
It'll be amazing.
But that's kind of my thing.
I think any parents who are,
Mhm.
rational, normal, calm people would
yeah.
be just fine.
No, we just
So,
Well,
Yeah,
you
anyway.
really
tested as a
need.
QRF for school shootings previously of get retirees, but
yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
that's
We
a
had talked-
longer,
Yeah.
more bureaucratical solution.
We had talked about granddads on duty,
Yeah.
literally.
Oh, I like that idea. I'd love to hang out with some cool granddads when I was in high school.
The idea was that they might be retired and have the time to do it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I expect it'll kind of drift that way in any case.
Yeah.
No,
but what I don't want them doing is weighing in. I don't want them being a combatant. I want them there being an adult.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the shortest. That is the second shortest route I can find to them screwing up.
Yeah.
Right, and it sounds like all they're doing is kind of spreading peace and love and chicken grease. You know,
just
what I mean?
being
like just being cool.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, I thought that was great.
Yeah. No, I think
that's a good thing.
Cool.
We'll need to remember that later.
Great.
Do we want to move on?
Yeah.
All right. So there is a geomagnetic storm watch.
Ooh.
Is this like the Carrington event? Are we going to go back to living in the Stone Ages?
This is.
If I get a wish, I would give 10 years.
About 30 orders of magnitude less than the Carrington event.
Wait, how many times less?
30 zeros.
So they're not even getting like a day off from school.
Probably not.
They're just going to get weird cancers.
But we had a small, I believe, X1, X-class flare, right? Which sent a coronal mass ejection straight for us, right? It's really cool on the Soho cameras because one of the things that happens when you have a flare is the magnetic field has broken. And so there are all these magnetic field lines rushing out into space. And they pick up the protons, right, the hydrogen nuclei that are floating around the sun and accelerate them to the speed of light, basically.
Right.
And then they hit the camera from Soho. And there's little white streaks everywhere in the imagery. So, I mean, everywhere. So this, you could see the little white streaks. I was watching the morning an X-28 happened.
Oh.
Right.
So that's how many more times powerful than this?
Because
I assume it's not just doubling every number. This is what logarithm.
About 20 zeros bigger.
Okay. This is why logarithm.
Anyway, and for a moment, the Soho camera that I was watching, which I believe is C3, just went white.
Yeah.
Right. You couldn't see the sun anymore.
Wow.
So, and I think Carrington was an X-45.
Would that like blow up all the TVs and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, again, all of the communications wires on Earth, right, are intended to be noise immune, right? So it's hard to really hurt them. On the other hand, they're calm, right? They're thinking 5 to 12 volts, and they could get more than that, right? So eventually you can hurt them with a big enough. Well, the power lines, which stretch for thousands of miles.
Those are good antennas.
Those make really good antennas. And a Carrington event will murder all kinds of electrical devices, starting with there are a small handful of gigantic transformers.
Will it do
it's simply going to kill. And we make about one a year. And it's going to kill like a dozen. So
it could be a bit before. No, I just asked because I know, like, I ingest books in an unhealthy rate. And so one of the things that pops up a lot in these books I'm reading is the fear of EMP weapons. And I remember growing up in the 80s.
Yeah.
Fear of nukes for sure.
Yeah.
EMPs kind of, but they have a very limited range of what you'd actually use them for. But TV treats them like you can switch off everything and it'll kill calculators in your pocket and it'll destroy everything and no cars will start and we'll all like suddenly Amish. And no, we've tried it. So you need something super beyond that.
So you need to recognize what it's going to hurt. It would probably kill any electrical device that was plugged in and turned on.
Okay.
Right.
Would it kill cars just sitting in parking lots?
What?
Would it kill cars sitting in
Carrington event?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, I'm just checking.
At least I don't think anybody thinks it will. No. So anyway, but the cool thing is it's going to hit on the 30th.
Oh, there we go.
And we could have good auroras down to like Illinois, Oregon.
Oh, well, that's exciting.
So, well, we already had a huge radio blackout. Like all of South America blacked out for a period.
Wow.
So anyway, so go outside. If you live north of Illinois and Oregon, go look. Right?
Yeah.
I want to know more at the South American.
Visit spaceweather.com for updates.
Oh, that's
right?
true.
Because they have
yeah.
all the instrumentation.
So how blacked out is South America?
Not at all anymore. It's a brief event,
Oh, okay.
but you simply can't propagate radio waves.
Yeah, I'm just making
right?
sure there
Certain
isn't
radio
like
waves.
a thing
Oh,
that means
no.
for a week there's no radio.
No.
I'm just curious, asking for
Yeah.
a friend.
The last like moments, minutes. What are we
Yeah.
talking?
Up to hours, I believe. Again, if you want to know, go to spaceweather.com.
That's true.
Start your Googling there. And you can get alerts. Could be cool.
Well, I think this is a good lead.
That's usually where I go for
And
meteor showers.
Right. And we have just barely started this solar cycle. Right. So it's going to get lots more
crazy.
exciting.
Yeah.
Well,
that's exciting.
We'll see how crazy it gets based on how crazy it gets. I don't think
the sun, load out all the electricity.
Oh, that would be bad.
Make them get along.
Yeah, I don't think
Part of
that's
it
going to
punish the non-believers.
I think that's going to make a lot of people go crazy.
Very crazy. Okay. No, we can live without a Carrington event.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You can.
On the other hand, right, some bigger coronal mass ejections might get us aurora. It would not be unheard of.
See?
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah. No, when the Carrington event hit, they had people who were up at 2 a.m. reading newspapers by the light of the auroras.
Damn.
Yeah.
I want that.
They thought the sun would come up.
In wherever the furthest south they go is.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to keep an eye on that and go to space.
I think that reading the newspaper by the
Weather.
aurora, I think that was North Carolina. Yeah.
Well, I want it in
Arizona.
Panama.
New Mexico. Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Texas. Oh, I want it in Texas.
I want it in all the way down the
Want to see what they're going to do if it happens in
I want it
Texas.
big enough to turn off all the radio stations and stuff in Texas.
Yeah,
And that happened.
Yeah, exactly. What is going on?
Yeah.
I'm voting for no electricity.
All right, so let's get this. This is a perfect way to get us into the metaverse. You want to talk about
Metaverse.
that?
Go ahead.
No, you actually have an article. I just have undulations and
He'll
hate.
respond.
I grabbed a paragraph from an
go with
article, and I'm not sure who wrote it. So credit where due. I just don't know who you are. Every tech billionaire on the planet is slobbering all over themselves as they declare the metaverse, the next phase of human culture, is within reach. Games, NFTs, crypto, VR, AR. Everybody knows virtual reality, augmented reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
The blockchain. They're all wrapped up in this idea of virtually integrated society, right? Where our Fortnite costumes carry over into our OnlyFans accounts, which is, it's just garbage, right?
So this was actually written by Wes Fenlon.
Okay.
And he's a PC Gamer article writer.
Cool. So Wes, yeah, totally agree. And then I realized I didn't completely agree. So there is a series of books called The Legacy of the Aldenata.
Okay.
Right? And they have artificial intelligence devices that are sort of the size of a pack of cigarettes. They're deformable. You can wrap them around your wrist. You can carry them in your pocket.
All right, some good hard sci-fi
Yeah.
far.
Well, but the point is that the AID, which is this artificially intelligent, totally connected, yeah, I want one of those.
Oh, for sure.
I want a critter that lives in my pocket. I want a critter that I can say, hey, remind me when I need to go turn off the water in the garden, right? Remind me that I want to get, right? It's the, and then have it go look for things. Hey, AID, how big was the Carrington event? Right. And again, okay, so I'm vaguely ADD, right? So you can see how such a device would play into my...
I kind of sort of just want like a robot BFF, like someone who will be my friend and like we can hang out and do all the cool things together. That's what I'm looking for.
I want a digital fawn hall.
A digital what?
Fawn hall.
Who's that?
Oliver North's assistant during the Iran-Contra. I want to shred my documents. I want a digital fawn who's going to go clear... If I die, clear my browsing history, delete those photos, release the phone spiders, and whatever the other thing is.
Well, and we're working up to it with concepts like loyal wingman, right? Where the second aircraft in a 2-aircraft formation will be flown by.
Digital battle buddy. Brilliant
Yep.
concept.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
I love it.
But I think there's a
All about
pathway in from there,
Mm-hmm.
right? That gets you the benefits of the metaverse without any nonsense goggles and so forth.
No, and that's
And,
exactly
Well, and Google Glass failed for the exact reason of people were like, "This is ridiculous."
Well, and nobody was going to do the cool apps, right?
Yeah.
I want to walk down a street in a town I've never been in before with an address.
Well, the
And I
problem,
want it to show me which way to go. I want it to point to the building, et cetera, et cetera. And we're getting some of that with the military goggles,
Yeah.
right? That display the intelligence so you know where reported enemy are and so forth. Augmented reality, right? It's an overlay to what you can see. Or that you're seeing in 3 wavebands, right? Shortwave, infrared, and visible.
Right, but I had friends who did the Google Glass, what was it, beta version, or the testing, right? So I had a couple of friends who had pairs of them, and I mean, they don't look cool, okay, when you're wearing them, and they're kind of flimsy. They're not really great for everybody. Do you know what I mean? They kind of were made for one.
I will tell you that if they lived up to their hype,
I will burn you with a cigarette.
what? Bang on the table. Okay.
Oh no!
Owie.
No burning. That
And no
asshole.
banging. And no banging on the
Take
table.
away your cigarette.
No, but if they had lived up to the hype,
Table.
right? Nobody would have cared what they looked like. Oh, we'd have had people that were, you
The
could
way
get
they
new
look-
frames.
The reason
They'd be putting them back together with duct tape. Yeah.
The reason why the way they look comes up is Google made much of how they had hired this very fancy designer to make them very beautiful.
Yep.
They weren't going to be birth control glasses from the military. When yes, it's exactly what they have
That's
to be.
exactly what they look
And in fact,
like.
if you aren't stupid, it's a thing that clips onto one of the arms. Because it really is just an overlay, and you can almost get enough.
Yeah, I feel
I
like,
want it to be able to do a visual overlay that I can see, but,
none
of that's going to happen.
What he's saying is, if you had like something you could clip under your hand, then you could be like, no, that's not
I
what
was
you
saying
mean.
clip onto the glasses themselves.
Oh.
Bring the frame.
Fine.
But the people that have tried that have only had they're keeping it very small displays. And you can't do the augmented reality you want of up here, turn left.
Well, and the reason you can't is there's no market for it. Nobody's going to work on it because nobody's going to pay them to do it.
Right? Yes, because they can't sell your personal data from it.
Right.
And they can,
No, I understand the concept of having you live in a computer game forever. And I can sell you add-ons and clothing and this and that. And the
which
other.
is why that will never, ever work.
Yeah.
Plus, that would require either a guaranteed basic income or something. Because this is that Snow Crash, Ready Player One nonsense of, okay, but what are they doing in the real world? And that conveniently never gets addressed because all of this is taken from books where it was a narrative to tell you cyber dystopian futures.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is,
in fact, megacorps before they were a real thing.
all of this, you'll laugh at me, but I'll take Avatar as an example. Beautiful universe, someplace to go, right, et cetera, et cetera. But again, it's a nice place to visit. I have no intention of living there.
Right.
No. But give me the same functionality, right? So the AID that was in the sci-fi series had a holographic projector. Yep. So, right, I mean, give me the functionality of, again, this ultra intelligent, totally connected friend, right, that I just talked to. And we're buddies. So if you can go down that road, you could move me closer to something that resembled the functionality of the metaverse without the idiocy.
No, and it won't be an American company that builds that, which is tragic because the long game on that, I'm going to build you an AI friend and you're going to tell it all of your secrets. You can wait as long as you want, but it's going to be better than Snitchbox can ever be. And it's going to be your friend and it's going to help you and it's going to, right, if you ask it how to do things, it'll tell you how to make your wireless more secure or whatever. It's a voice that you can ask and it can poll the internet. Because one of the things we are going to run into with the internet right? Just the internet as currently conceptualized
Okay.
is we are beginning to generate enough data that sorting it is a problem. Right, that if nothing, we went from carrying over about 20% of media on any given decade
Yeah.
to 80%
Yeah.
in some narrow bands.
Yep. The world's largest pile of shit.
Yes.
And you're looking for
And a computer
needle.
can sort that.
Yep.
Well, that is all extremely
it sorted.
interesting, and I extra look forward to my robot BFF.
Mhm.
I'm expecting that, folks. Whoever does that, do that.
If you could just figure
You
out a way to
actually
mount
want
a
it to
death
be a
ray.
robot that walks around with you or follows you like a robot dog?
I don't care if it's something that lives in my wristwatch, or my phone, or what.
You get them in
I don't
AI.
care.
The computer kids are going to build, or robot kids are going to build you robots.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Like, I really don't care what form it comes in, but I want this AI to understand the term of friendship and whatever, and to become my buddy so that I can have, like, engaging conversation and still have, like, a friend. Like, that's what I want out of a robot, is a BFF that'll, like, tell me recipes, then we'll gab about what's going on with so-and-so, and, just fun.
Yeah, because the butler
It won't
robot,
sell your data.
Right.
or
No, but
will
whose whole goal is
anonymize
to-
my data appropriately.
Right.
Which really, at some levels, all you
care about. I agree.
But
no.
I want it to care about what happens to me as much as I care about what happens to it. Like, I want it to be like a symbiotic thing.
Yeah, a robot butler is hard material science-wise, just to build a skeleton that can do all the things a human can. But no, if you're down for it being a fun thing, there's little reason.
Well, that's where it starts.
Yeah.
Right, and as that technology matures, there's no reason it can't run a robot.
Yes.
Right. So.
No, the robot part's easy. The hard part is if you want a robot that actually do stuff.
Yeah.
Right, because otherwise it's going to be a big robotic arm like in the factories.
All right, so we are going to move this along. You want to talk about Dalen Roof? Did I get that
Dylan,
right?
it was the historically black church in Charleston, South Carolina.
What of it? You did.
It's interesting. Their $88 million settlement, and I don't know whether the jury did it intentionally or not.
So,
but it's kind of a slap at the white nationalists, that 88.
Yeah.
So anyway,
in case you don't know Nazi numerology, neo-Nazi numerology, 88's big to them because it's the eighth.
HH.
Yeah, H is the eighth letter in the alphabet, so it's HH for Heil Hitler. Also 14 for the 14 words and a bunch of other dumb things.
Yeah.
And don't get into the numerology crap, folks.
No, I just thought it was. I thought it was amusing, and if it was true, it was more amusing.
Yeah. No, especially if it was intentional. That is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Well done, people. Like, good job.
I don't know. Can the lawyers in that push for what the number ought to be?
I don't know.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. So anyway, one of the MAGA rioters is demanding that his trial be moved out of Washington, D.C. because he believes prospective jurors will be too biased to give him a fair hearing. Because that's where you committed the crimes. That's where you go to trial.
And that's Kyle Fitzsimmons?
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, and that's the argument we've always used to hold less than fair trials.
Elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, golly, the symmetry is painful. A number of the other defendants have requested the same thing. The courts have so far unanimously said, no.
Yeah.
You're going to be tried here. Which is going to make it busy in D.C., let me tell you. But they singled out Joe Biden, who had said they're a bunch of thugs, insurrectionists, political extremists, and white supremacists. Hey, wait a minute. So I saw the video. Okay, so yeah, thugs, that's a big check mark. Insurrectionists, yeah, absolutely, some of them, right?
Yeah.
Political extremists,
yeah.
White supremacists. Wait a minute. I saw this flag getting carried around in the Capitol.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. You know, the second place trophy for the Civil War,
the Confederate flag,
participation trophy. Yeah, that one.
And wait. Just so people are sure, weren't you born in a state that would allow you to accurately say those are shithead racists?
Yes, honey child, I was born in Mobile, Alabama.
Okay.
I lived in the South for my entire childhood, and I can tell you those are racists.
Yeah.
Fine.
No, My point being,
I have some other words for them too that we're not going to use.
Yeah.
So again,
How long did it
as
take you to lose the
misguided
accent?
as misguided as they were by that orange
okay.
disease, whatever his name is. No, just what did he used to be somebody?
Orange dude. I think he was a president once.
Was he?
Yeah.
Really?
I think they called him 45, I believe. I could be wrong. Somebody look that up.
Anyway.
I'm too lazy. Don't care.
Again, the more we see, the more it appears that this may have been intentional and planned by a number of other thugs and insurrectionists and political extremists.
Oh, yeah.
Who were quite close to the White House.
Oh, yeah.
So we shall see as we go forward.
Yeah. No, that'll be funny to watch.
Try them in Washington, D.C.
No, the intersection between the AstroTurf crowd and the can actually try for a pardon crowd is going to be interesting because that's where you can apply the most pressure to roll.
Yeah.
Right. The Mo Brooks's staff who might have been involved are going to have very little reason to hope that they can just hang out and wait out.
Yeah.
So
anyway.
All right, so
we'll see where that goes.
Now we're going to get into my Walmart story real quick, and I promise I'm going to keep this short and...
Yeah, you always promise that. Go ahead. So did we.
So, Asshole and I went to Walmart the other day, and we're checking out, and he runs to the bathroom while I'm putting stuff on the little conveyor belt, right? So I'm putting stuff on the conveyor belt, and I have the cart, I'm standing at the front of the cart, and this guy walks literally up so that his stomach is probably 4 inches away from the hand hold on my cart on the other side.
Yeah.
And I look at him when as he walks up, and he is not wearing a mask. I'm clearly wearing a mask, and he smirks. Okay. So he just has this sort of half smile, and he thinks he's being funny.
Yeah.
So he's standing there, and I'm like, wait till Asshole gets back, right? He'll back off, right? This is a power play because I'm a woman and he thinks this is funny and whatever. Funny. And this is an old white gentleman, okay? Similar to the old white gentleman that harassed me in the Walmart in Florida. So anyway, there I am, and Asshole comes back, and the guy stays there, and he's just smirking the whole time, thinking he's being funny. So eventually I have to start getting the stuff out of the basket that's right at the handbar. Mm-hmm. So I walk around the cart and I look at him and I say, "Excuse me, sir." And I'm so sorry. And he steps back. And then I be sure to stand behind the cart to keep him at a distance. But don't do that, because even if this wasn't a pandemic thing, he was too close. He was way too close, and it was unacceptable, and he thinks he's being funny or cute or stupid or whatever.
Or he's just one more oblivion.
No, I feel like this is an owning the lib moment, right? Because I was wearing a mask, and he wasn't, and he thought this was his time to be a shithead. And fuck you.
Can always stop
if you're listening to this, old man, fuck you.
You can always just stop unloading your cart, look at him and say, "When you step back, I'll continue to unload the cart.
Otherwise, we just live here now."
We just live here now.
I considered a couple times, but I decided to wait until it was absolutely necessary so that it, whatever.
I'm no help because I didn't even know this guy existed. So.
No, he was smirking at me the whole time, and I wanted to punch him in his stupid old man face.
You gotta do a thing.
Yeah.
Because after that...
No, and don't interfere with him, because with any luck at all, he's unvaccinated.
Politely.
And he's going to find out that COVID-19 is not amusing.
Yeah. Oh, and he's got, it sounds like, at least several of the comorbidities.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, and I hope he dies.
Is stupid a comorbidity? It is now.
It
is now.
Yeah, aggressively. All right, so we're going to lead from that directly into Killer Legends. All right? Yeah, so we're back to Killer. We're gonna pause for a second, and then we'll be back. Woot. Okay, so we're back, and we're talking about Killer Legends by Joshua Zeman and Rachel Mills. Again, you can find this by just going on your YouTube and typing in Killer Legends. It'll pop right up. Watch it. It's an amazing watch. I loved it. Again, they are legend trippers, so they go to these places, they talk to the people involved, they visit the spots where these murders occurred. It's interesting. Okay. So this particular story that we're talking about tonight is The Babysitter and the Man Upstairs, okay? And this story dates back to the 1960s when this story was started to be told. So my version of this story that I'm going to tell you guys tonight is probably very similar to ones that you have heard over the years, especially us millennials and even you boomers, because again, this was, back in the 60s.
Yeah, when dinosaurs ruled the earth.
Oh shit, you win. Okay. So, here's the story. It's a stormy night. A babysitter is watching TV after tucking the kids in for the night. Suddenly the phone rings and a scratchy voice asks, "Have you checked on the children?" Thinking it's a prank, the annoyed babysitter hangs up. The phone rings again. The same voice repeats the question. The young lady tells them to stop calling and hangs up once again. The phone rings for a third time, and after this discussion, the babysitter hangs up the phone and calls the cops. They say they will trace the call. So the next time the phone rings, she when she gets off the phone after the next time he calls, the cops call her right back. And she hangs. I totally botched it tonight, folks. I'm sorry. But anyway, so the cops call her back, and the officer shouts, "The calls are coming from inside the house. Get out!" So now in some version of this story, she runs out of the house and survives to be told the children had been murdered upstairs while she had been downstairs watching TV. In others, she gets killed before she can make it out of the house. So this is the story, and I'm sure you've heard some version of this.
Of
Mr.
course,
Rex.
and there's been a movie or two.
Okay, so if we're gonna get right into the cinematography.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, this is
yeah,
fine.
Everybody's heard this.
Have it right here. So the movies that are directly tell this urban myth in different ways. Foster's Release in 1971, The Severed Arm in 1973, Black Christmas in 1974, O Anaho de Note in 1974 as well. The Sitter in 1977. When a Stranger Calls in 1979. When a Stranger Calls Back in 1993. When a Stranger Calls in 2006. And When a Stranger Calls in 2006 as well. And then, so the first one is When a Stranger Calls. The second one is When a Killer Calls. And both of those were in 2006. And Amusement, which is from 2008. Now, similar movies that are, kind of have diggings into the similar concept of
getting smoked.
Babysitters getting killed or girls at home getting murdered include Halloween, House of the Devil, and Halloween, which was the 1978 version, House of the Devil, which was 2009, and Scream, which is from 1996.
Now, I have to say, one of the things I learned from the movie kids I knew growing up, right, or one of the interesting concepts I heard was all of the movies that take place around any holiday, all taking place same night.
That's true.
Yeah.
They all take place.
And I just find that an interesting way to look at movies because, that means on Halloween there's a bunch of people getting turbo murdered.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay, so now we're gonna get into the grisly truth of what led to these, and it happened March 18th of 1950. Okay, it was a stormy, windy, cold night, and Janet Christman was babysitting for the Romax. Okay, so Mr. Romack showed her where he kept the shotgun by the front door and made sure she knew how to load and fire it. Okay, at 10:35 that night, the cops receive a phone call from a girl screaming hysterically, and the officer hears the words, "Come quick." The call is suddenly disconnected, and they can't trace it. So they have no idea where this poor woman is, and she's being murdered. So at 1:35 a.m. on March 19th, the Romacks return home to find the porch light on, the front and back doors unlocked, and a broken window in the back, and a gruesome scene inside. So the story of what happened this night is that Janet puts up this valiant fight against an attacker that she supposedly knew, which is why the doors were unlocked and such. So the struggle starts in the kitchen by the phone because she heard the window break. So she runs to the phone to call the cops. And this is where the guy goes in through the front door and then attacks her, okay? And continues down the hallway into the living room at the front of the house. So she's fighting, she's clawing him, she's kicking him, she's fighting for her life. She gets brutally raped and then strangled to death with a cord cut from an iron. So the dude took the iron, cut the cord off, and then just strangles her with it. Now, this was eventually tied to a similar, I'm going to tell you about the other one that is connected to this, where it was another situation where a woman named Mary Lou Jenkins, and this happened on February 6th of 1946, so 4 years prior. She was home alone, was also raped and strangled with a cut electrical cord less than 2 blocks from where Janet was murdered. Now, the Mary Lou Jenkins case is interesting because a man named Floyd Cochran, who was arrested for killing his wife, was also charged with Mary Lou's murder, and he was killed in jail, so the death sentence in 1974. However, the similarities of these cases is really weird. And another weird thing that happened between 1946 and 1950 is there's this series of rapes, like brutal and scary rapes, and peeping toms are reported for this 4-year period. And then after Janet is murdered, it stops. So there have been several people, again, they never found the killer. This is another situation. The killer was never confirmed or whatever. There was this one guy named Robert Mueller, okay? And he was a high school friend of the Romax. And he had made several odd comments about Janet and her figure. The wife said that she saw him like putting his hand on her thigh and like rubbing it down. Now, this is an older gentleman and she's a very young girl, teenager, high school sort of thing. And so they go and take this guy to court. Now, part of the problem is right after the murder of Janet, the cops kind of go a little crazy, okay? So they go around arresting people. They interview dozens, some say even hundreds, of suspects over the coming weeks after this happens.
You've got to do something. Like, you have to reassure the community that... Right. I get it. It's the... Anyway.
No, you're correct. And so they're trying, right? And they're just crazy. So they're out in the streets. They're chasing people down. They're shooting random people. Like, this is getting a little out of hand. What kind of led to this, like, craziness is that where she was killed was out in the county, but the city police decided to get involved. So now there's this fight between the county and the city police over who should be doing what on this case. So this guy, Robert Mueller, finally, they decide that maybe he's the one that did it. They gave him a polygraph test, but he passed it. And if he's a true psychopath, they can easily pass.
Polygraphs don't work.
Well, especially back in 1950.
Polygraphs don't work yesterday.
Well, and they don't really work
you
at all.
Make them work, but you would have to do them consistently.
Right, but at the same time, like, we all know that it's not a thing, but back then they, leaned on it a bit more than they should have. And again, with the 1950s technology, it's useless.
There's a reason they're not
Absolutely
admissible in court.
So they took him to court, right? And the grand jury, basically looked at the officers and was like, you all need to calm the fuck down, stop fighting and get your shit together and then come back with a solid case for us, okay? And again, they never did. They blamed this black man named Jake Bradford, and he was charged with the rapes, okay, not any of the murders. And a lot of people consider him completely innocent of these crimes, but he was in jail for other things already. So, I mean, not a stand-up guy, but in a town that's like a Confederate town back in the 1950s, this Robert Mueller guy was also black and mentally disabled. So most people say he didn't have the mentality. Like, it's one thing to kill your wife who, you're just gonna whatever, do the thing. But to go to a young girl's house and to corner her and to go through all the effort of whatever, people say he didn't have the mental ability to be able to do that. So
and there's more of a history of pinning murders are never getting solved.
Right, on somebody.
On the nearest black person.
In this case, the nearest black person, yes.
There is a history of pinning murders won't be solved on mentally disabled people.
Oh, that's true.
So that other police doing investigations know which ones to skip.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So I find it interesting. Given that history, some of those murders were local, right?
Yeah.
So
These
now
were all local. The two
blocks.
major murders happened within 0.42 miles of each other.
Okay.
So less than 2 blocks.
So I kind of understand why the father showed her where the shotgun was.
Mm-hmm.
I also point out it didn't do her any good.
No, hold up. That was not the action that was the problem. Police don't magically jump out of your phone.
Right.
Right. The time to call the police is either wildly when you think something's happening, right? When there was the noise, right?
Well, that's when she did call.
Yeah.
Yeah, when she heard the breaking glass, that's when she went to the phone. She should have gone for the gun.
This is pre 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, this is 1950.
Once she hung up, they may not have been able to.
No, that's
the part of the thing is how the origin story of this has changed or been lost.
Yeah.
Because upstairs isn't a very big feature in most of the houses that would have been available.
Yeah, this house did not have an upstairs.
Yeah. The other is tracing the call. That's a 1980s feature.
Yeah.
Because, yes, we could trace calls in the 60s and 70s if you knew what number we were watching, and you could call Ma Bell and be like, hey, put it on the special list and have it done.
So what happened was the reason why they weren't able to trace this particular call this particular night was because there was a short staff on the operating lines or something, so they didn't have the right people to be able to hunt her down fast enough that it would have been of any help.
Yeah. In that era, I think the line had to be open. And they literally went from relay to relay to see where it was going.
Yeah.
So,
well, and honestly, this tells you, okay, if you ever call 911 for any reason, the first thing you say is the address of where you are. Don't say your name. That's not important. What's important is your address, and you are in trouble, and you need help immediately.
Where would you like police delivered to?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and then your name still doesn't matter. Like, there is your address. What's happening?
Yeah.
Like, your name doesn't come up till the very end. And
if you've got time, and they can always get that from you, assuming you survive.
Yeah. No, if you can get the address and then go to tools.
Well, and one of the
But no one teaches a 14-year-old girl that.
On the other hand, so now I have to tell a story about what could be done, right, with modern 9/11. So, when my wife's sister died on Long Island, I wound up in Long Island doing some of the last cleanup and so forth of the apartment and so on. And so I called Martha, who was having at that time, an undiagnosed heart problem.
Oh, no.
And I was talking to her, and suddenly she became unresponsive. So I shouted at the phone 4 or 5 times, nothing. I tried to call back. The phone is busy. Well, because she's got the handset in bed with her. The line is open. So I hung up and I called 911 on Long Island. And I said I was talking to my wife and she suddenly became...
I thought you called the local one.
I did.
You were.
I was on Long Island.
Oh, okay.
So I called the Long Island 911. And I said I was talking to my wife who has medical problems. She just became responsive. I need 911 in New Hampshire right now. And she said, no problem at all. And in 15 seconds, she had the local 911 operator on the phone. And she could relay, right? And she was saying, all right, they're sending support. They're sending support. And we stay on the phone a couple of minutes. She says, the fire department is at the door. And I said, if the door is locked, kick it in.
Yep.
And
Gave permission. Yep.
yep. And so it was great. And then she says, yes, they are with her. She is conscious. They are. She is talking to the fire department, and so forth. And I said, oh. But it was very quick, very responsive.
Yeah. No, and our ability to track has gotten better. It is not perfect. So again,
Give your address.
Especially with cell phones, right? Because
Yeah.
you may think that they can GPS you, but people have died waiting when they could have, someone else could have helped them or whatever, because they were at the wrong place.
Yeah.
Give the first thing you should always know where you are, or a general vicinity of where you are, first of all. And second of all, that's the first thing you say to these people is where you are.
Absolutely.
So.
And one other thing, because it came up recently, if you are in trouble, right, and you have called or tried to get attention or whatever, and your phone rings, don't look at the phone and say, do I know this phone number? Just answer the goddamn phone.
Yeah. Answer your phone if you're in trouble, folks.
Yeah.
Could save your life.
Yep.
No, and again, so these were kind of the only murders, right, that were related to women being home alone, kids, teenagers babysitting, that sort of stuff. You're not going to find anywhere else where a stranger came in, right? Every other situation you're going to find, it's going to be someone known. And even in this case, we believe it is someone who is known to her, to both these ladies, okay? And that they were let in on the premise of, I know you, it's safe, and then bad things happen. So when you're alone, like, don't just open the door because you know somebody. Just say, hey, I'm busy. I need you to come back later, right? And make sure you keep your doors locked. That's about all you can do. But it's not something to be concerned about. This is not something that happens on the reg. You're no more likely while you're babysitting or while you're home alone to be invaded than you are when you're home with other people or whatever, because home invasions are just so few and far between. It's not, I mean, we can get statistics on it and we can talk about it in detail. This research actually takes up a lot of my day, so I don't always have time to look up the type of statistics and stuff that I want to.
Still at record lows. Unquestionably record lows.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
and again, remember,
year are interesting, but
right, and remember that our property, stuff has dropped by 7%, which we discussed in our first episode that we posted. So don't be afraid of strangers. Be afraid of your best friend and family
typically
members.
That's right. 80% of this kind of crime is by people you know.
Yeah.
The other thing to remember is that, like the home invasions, all the home invasions I can think of going back for several years were related to, drugs or, something where someone who had a criminal history, right, was living that life, right, was aware of where there was something of value to be taken, right? So
someone knew what someone had.
Exactly. So, just with all the social networking and stuff, don't tell people when you're going on vacation. Don't give them video tours of your house, right? So, anyway.
Nope, be smart and you'll be fine. That's what we're talking about. We want you to remember to like, comment, and subscribe, folks.
Hit the buttons.
Hit every button you can about how much you like us. We want to hear your comments. Tell us what you want us to talk more about. We've talked about a lot of stuff. So if there's something that maybe you want to hear more about, comment. We'll respond for surezies. And we might even put it in one of our shows. So please.
Give Risen a topic for a deep dive.
Yeah, seriously. I'm loving
She
this.
loves doing that. Yeah.
It's exciting, and I'm having a blast. So give me stuff to do, folks. Like give me something that you need, that you don't have the time in your busy lives to research, and I will do that research for you and let you know what I found.
You got some good things and some bad things that are more keep an eye on.
Oh.
One of the things in the supplemental package is a return of the CCC at about staffing rates from the last time.
What's that?
The Civilian Conservation Corps. This is going to be the Climate Conservation Corps, but they're going to do a lot of the adaptation answer we're going to use for what we can on climate change. They're having 300,000 is the first cycle. That's about what was on par with over the 11 years the original had. It was about 3 to 4 million.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Also, LA and Chicago are trying a basic universal income program.
Oh.
Chicago at $500 a month, LA at $1,000. Hey, we'll see.
That'll be interesting.
I like the idea. It's one of the alternate ways. It's not my favorite way of applying pressure.
Yeah.
But there are some interesting ideas of the upsides you could have, right? We could go back to some owner-operator stuff on the side. Right. Funding American side hustles is where a lot of interesting things came from.
Yeah, well, I could see that being a way to underwrite finishing a bachelor's degree.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, with a part-time job and the $1,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. And then the question is, do people graduate from that? Right. And some people won't.
The numbers are bad on working and going to school, but that's working to subsist as opposed to supplement. And
well, and if you have a household of 2 people that are each getting $1,000 and one of them's working a full-time job, that will leave the other person the ability to, they can take turns, right? Yeah. Like one can go to school and then when that one's done their schooling and they feel whatever, they'll get that better paying job and then be able to, the other person can take their turn to go to school and do the things. Yeah.
Less awesome is one of the things in the supplemental is $12,500 tax rebate for effectively Chevy, 2 flavors of Chevy cars, because it has to be built in America with American parts by American unions, and that's one flavor of our company. That's all Chevy, and I'm fine-ish. I
liked my Chevy.
Yeah, that's for electric vehicles, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, and the other thing is, at some point, I'm going to hold up to BoomerRex the big list of internet's unexplainable things. Ask you to explain them.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Okay. It's like how parts of the sun are hotter than they should be. And again, that's just heat's getting trapped under it. Anyway, we've played some of this over the years.
Okay.
I'll look at a thing, not be able to figure it out quickly, and be like, hold on. I've got a big, sexy brain. And
well, we could do 2 or 3 a night or something. Mm-hmm. And if we find one that I have no idea about.
Well, we can do it like we can on slower news days. We can throw a few of those in.
Yeah, sounds good.
And because I know sometimes we're looking at the news like, fuck, what are we going to talk about? There's like nothing going on. So again, if you have anything that you want to see us talk about, or I should say, hear us talk about, let us know. Like, comment, subscribe. Does anybody else have anything they want to add?
Silence.
Yeah. All right.
No internet, go away.
All right. So we're going to say good night, and we will see you all tomorrow on BoomerRexTonight.
You see that thing about all the trees eating people?